I'd say he's pretty hammered. He would slur his words. His movement was slow.
It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with.
At what point did he put on his shirt? Somebody saw something. Somebody knows something.
I think that the term fully clothed just got taken out of context.
We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home.
At 4 in the afternoon on the 4th of July, a boy called for help from a sinking boat. A dispatcher asked him a simple question. Is everybody on board in good health? He said yes. Then, in the same breath, he said he didn't really know.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking.
And what do you want to do? Do you want to be towed back?
I want to get this boat unsank and towed back, yes.
The caller told the dispatcher everyone aboard was unhurt and noted he and the passengers were young.
There are 0 adults on board. Nobody here is over the age of 21. What?
Do you need the United States Coast Guard?
No, we do not need that.
All right. All right. Do you have your current GPS coordinates?
Let me go look.
7 people were on that vessel, nobody over 21. And when she offered him the Coast Guard, he turned it down. 2 days later, a park ranger found Nolan Wells in the water off the northwestern tip of Horn Island. You have heard 4 seconds of that call. You have seen the thumbnails, the red capitals, the channels that told you what it proves before they told you what it is. What almost none of them mentioned is that a forensics expert compared both files and found the enhanced version runs 20 seconds longer with a different digital fingerprint and could not corroborate a single phrase. So we are going to play the whole call, uncut, including the part nobody publishes, where the dispatcher stops talking to the boy and starts talking to a captain, because the line that should stop you is not buried under engine noise. It was spoken clearly, on a recorded line, and it has been sitting in a public file for a week. Now the parts that matter. He opens with the emergency, and nothing around it. West tip of Horn Island. Bilge pump stopped. They're sinking. Please come. The dispatcher works her script. How high is the water? Ankles. He can't measure it. He tells her they're just going down. She needs a membership number. He doesn't have one. A phone number on the account. He doesn't have that either. He offers a name, says he thinks that's it, asks her to try it. Then he tells her he knows the membership exists. Guaranteed. Signal keeps dropping. He goes to find GPS coordinates, reads a set, breaks up, reads a second set that doesn't match the first. She asks whether they have a VHF radio, the piece of equipment that would make any of this easier. They don't. She asks whether the boat is aground. He says no. Then he gives the depth as 17 feet and corrects himself in the same breath to 31. He identifies the vessel, 22-foot Triton offshore. And somewhere in the middle, one line thrown away from the phone at someone else on the boat about the drain plug. That is the recording the internet has heard 4 seconds of. What follows is the part almost nobody has published. She puts him on hold and transfers to the local captain. 2 professionals now talking to each other, with the boy waiting on the line. She tells the captain it sounds like a group of kids out on Horn Island, that the caller says his father holds the membership but can't produce anything to prove it, that he's just a kid and there's a lot going on. She mentions she offered the Coast Guard and he turned it down. The captain already knows about the boat. He has just come off a call with the grandfather, who he believes owns it. And the grandfather told him something that has gone almost entirely unremarked in a month of coverage. They don't need any help right now. If anything changes, they'll call back. The captain repeats it flatly. He figures they must have sorted it out, because that's what he was told. So while a teenager sits on hold describing a vessel going down with 7 people on it, an adult on the mainland has already stood the rescue down. Nobody has explained how the grandfather knew they were fine. One exchange in this call has been quoted in fragments across 100 videos. The fragments change what it means. Here it is whole. The dispatcher asks how many adults and children are on board. He says there are no children. She asks again, how many adults? He says there are 0 adults on board. She stops the script. She asks whether there is nobody on the boat at all, and he answers a question she never asked. Nobody there is over the age of 21. So she escalates, and the words she has to reach for tell you what she is now imagining on the other end of that line. Is there a person on the boat? A living individual? Someone breathing? Only then does he say yes. There are lots of people breathing on the boat. She asks how many. Like 7. Take the ordinary reading first, because it is probably the right one. He is a teenager. The hull is filling. People are shouting behind him. She wants a head count for a rescue, and he is working off a legal definition of adult. That is not a man choosing his words. That is a kid running 2 frames at once and dropping both. Warren Hudson has said publicly that the group had been drinking on the water that day. That belongs in the frame too, but that is not the moment that should stop you. Earlier in the same call, she asks whether everybody on board is in good health otherwise. He says yes, and then, immediately, in the same breath, that he doesn't really know. Sit with the shape of that answer. Not a denial, not an assurance. A yes that collapses on itself from someone standing on the deck looking at the people he is being asked about. Moments later, she asks whether they need the United States Coast Guard. He asks her to repeat it. She repeats it. He says no, they do not need that. 7 people aboard. Nobody over 21. A vessel taking on water off an uninhabited barrier island, no VHF radio, cell service dropping every few seconds, and the only agency that performs open water rescue is declined by a kid who could not tell her how many people were on the boat. There is an ordinary explanation available. Teenagers on a borrowed boat, alcohol on board, calculating what an official rescue brings with it. That happens on the water more than people think. But it is a decision, made out loud, on a recorded line, by someone with the phone in his hand. It required no software to hear. It has been sitting in the public file since Marine Resources released it. 2 days later, a park ranger found Nolan Wells in the water off the northwestern tip of that island. Now, the part the internet actually came for. The original file carries heavy noise underneath the call. Multiple voices, shouting. At one point, the caller turns away from the phone and tells the people behind him to shut up while he is trying to talk to the dispatcher. That is what everyone has been trying to hear through. An audio engineer named Janetta Brantley cleaned it. She has said the work took hours on a section under a minute long, isolating background voices from engine noise and wind. 15 years in the field. She has stood by her version publicly under heavy pushback, and she has asked the FBI to run the same file through equipment better than hers. TMZ published its own enhancement on July 27th. The outlet reported that around 12 seconds in, the background appears to contain a question about whether someone is dead. It flagged what sound like a name, an expression of shock, an instruction about checking a chest, and someone telling a person to wake up. TMZ did not print those as facts. It printed them as what someone seems to say. That single word has been stripped out of nearly every video made since. Then a digital forensics expert named Robert Freed pulled both files and compared them. His findings are specific, and they are not comfortable for anyone. The TMZ version runs 20 seconds longer than the original. The 2 files carry different digital fingerprints and different content. He preserved each from its original source, transcribed both independently, and could not corroborate the phrases TMZ reported. He was also honest about something most experts would leave out. When he first heard what people said was in that recording, his own mind went straight to those words before he analyzed anything. There is a term for it: auditory pareidolia. The brain fills expected language into noise. It is why people hear messages in reversed records and voices in static and their own name in a crowded room. It is not stupidity, it is standard perception, and it sharpens the instant someone tells you what to listen for. So hold 2 things at once. The words may be in there. Nobody has demonstrated that they are not. And no agency, no independent forensics authority, and no verified process has confirmed a single one of them. Anyone telling you this audio proves Nolan Wells was on that boat is stating something no examination has established. Anyone telling you it proves nothing is doing the identical thing from the other side. This is the part of the case where the honest position is that the evidence is contested, and it stays contested until someone with subpoena power and a proper laboratory publishes findings. If that is the version of this story you want, the one that separates what is established from what is only being repeated, subscribe. There is a great deal more of this case coming, and most of it is going to be told badly, because the outlet that published that enhancement also published something else that week, something that points in the opposite direction, and almost nobody using their audio has mentioned it. TMZ published the enhancement. TMZ also published this, and almost nobody using the first has touched the second. Sources with direct knowledge of the investigation told the outlet that authorities have evidence placing Nolan on Horn Island after the boat left. At least 2 witnesses interviewed by law enforcement say they saw him there after it headed for the mainland. If that holds, Nolan was not among the 7 people on that call. Every interpretation built on the background voices collapses at the foundation. Both stories ran within days of each other, from the same publication. A channel that runs one and buries the other is not following a story. It is picking the version that performs. There is a third piece in that reporting, and it is thinner than it looks. Sources say people who were on the boat have heard the enhanced version and are telling those around them it is nothing but panic over a sinking vessel. Those same sources would not say what was actually said. Read that carefully. A denial with no content in it is not a confession. It is also not a denial. It is what people say through intermediaries once lawyers are involved, and lawyers are now involved on every side of this case. Warren Hudson has given his own account publicly. He says someone in the group was panicking and trying to get Nolan to leave with them, shouting at him to get on the boat. In that version, a voice saying Nolan is a person calling across the water, not standing over him. That explanation has been mocked for 2 weeks straight, and it deserves better than mockery, because it is the only explanation anyone has offered that is actually testable. A group trying to leave a sinking boat while one person stays on shore would sound exactly like that. Nobody has produced anything that settles it. But there is a person who was standing next to Nolan in those minutes, and her family has told a version that fits neither account. The entire official explanation for why Nolan stayed rests on one person. Her family has now contradicted it. The friend's account has been consistent from the beginning. Nolan chose to remain on Horn Island because he was talking with a 19-year-old woman he had met that day. Hudson has stated it directly. Nobody left him. They asked. He decided to stay with the girl he was with. Her sister told the Daily Mail something else entirely. She said the young woman spoke with Nolan and came away assuming he was getting ready to board the boat he had arrived on. She added that her sister assumed the friends calling him to the boat would never have left without him. Set that against the friend's version. The person he supposedly stayed behind for believed he was leaving. Ben Crump put it to reporters in the plainest terms available. She says he was getting on the boat. They say he did not get on the boat. Nolan's parents have said since the July press conference that they do not believe their son separated from the group voluntarily. Now the counterweight, because this is where most channels stop the tape. Former FBI agent Jennifer Coffindaffer has argued that both accounts can be true at once, and that this reads to her as a timing problem rather than dishonesty on either side. A conversation ends. She walks away believing he is about to board. Whatever happened in the minutes after, she never saw. That covers a great deal of it. It does not cover what happens roughly an hour later, when a call goes out from that boat and a teenager tells a dispatcher everyone aboard is fine, and then says he doesn't really know. The family did not wait on the state. They hired Ben Crump and brought in Dr. Roger A. Mitchell Jr., president of the National Medical Association, former chief medical examiner for Washington, D.C. He examined Nolan on July 10th. The findings came out July 22nd at the NOC National Convention in Chicago. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. Manner of death, the same. Crump read the line that has defined this case ever since. The pathologist could not rule out whether any intervening non-accidental factors contributed to or caused the death. What Mitchell did not find belongs in any honest account of this. No lacerations, no fractures, no deep tissue injuries anywhere on the body. The county coroner had already reported no immediate signs of physical injury. He did document red discoloration in the deep soft tissue at the back of the head. Dr. Kendall Von Crowns, chief medical examiner in Tarrant County, Texas, uninvolved in this case, has said that could represent decompositional changes in the musculature, or blunt force injury to the back of the head and neck. One finding, two readings, opposite implications. Then the limitation Mitchell placed above all the others. Portions of the neck had been retained during the state autopsy and never released with the body. He wrote that as a result, he could not rule out injury to the neck as a contributor or a cause of death. The one physician the family paid to look was not permitted to examine the part that answers the question, and he made one more point that has gone almost entirely unreported, though it may be the most important sentence in the document. When a body is recovered from water and drowning is suspected, it matters how that person entered the water. He noted this is especially important in the deaths of people who could swim. Nolan could swim. Multi-sport athlete at Ocean Springs High School, class of 2025, headed to play football at Southwest Mississippi Community College. That is the question no examination of the body alone will ever answer. Not what the water did to him, how he got into it. Everything in this case now turns on findings that exist and have not been released. If you want to be here when they are, subscribe now. When the state report is unsealed, this channel will go through it line by line and let you decide what it means. Sheriff John Ledbetter has said his office interviewed approximately 60 witnesses and that the friends who traveled with Nolan to Horn Island were among those interviewed in depth. The FBI is assisting. Ledbetter frames it as routine because Horn Island is federal land and his department works with the Bureau regularly. Their assignment is forensic examination of the digital evidence collected. There is a second federal thread, and it runs the other way. Mississippi Department of Public Safety Commissioner Sean Tyndall has said the FBI is investigating threats made against public officials, against the people who were with Nolan before he vanished, and against their families. The same agency going through their devices is investigating the threats being made against them. But the sharpest indication of what investigators are actually chasing came in a request they made publicly. They asked for original, unedited photos and video taken on July 4th. Specifically, anything depicting alleged altercations and anything containing or believed to contain images of Nolan Wells, alleged altercations. Investigators do not reach for that phrase without cause. Someone described a physical confrontation on that island, and it was credible enough to put in a public appeal. One is already on the record. Trayston Shepard has said he left Horn Island with his uncle after getting into a fight with people unconnected to the group. Whether that is the confrontation investigators mean, nobody outside the sheriff's office knows. What is documented is that law enforcement is seeking footage of fights on that island, on that day, and that they specified unedited, which means somebody has already given them something edited. Nolan did not have his phone when he was recovered. His friends say he left it on the boat. Warren Hudson has taken that question head on. He has asked why anyone would have been thinking about a phone while a boat was going down. He has said he did not know Nolan's passcode. He has stated that nobody touched the device until it was handed to Nolan's mother at a friend's house. That account is about to be tested by something with no loyalty to anyone. Crump met District Attorney Angel Myers McElrath on July 15th. He described the meeting as respectful. What came out of it was an agreement for a mutual inspection of the phone, with the family's experts and the state's experts opening it together. Eric Hertz, running Crump's independent investigation, has since said the FBI is expected in the room. Both sides. Same device, same moment. The structure matters more than anything they find, because it kills the argument that was coming either way. Nobody can say afterward that the other side had it alone. What sits on that device? If it survived a sinking boat and 4 weeks in an evidence locker, is location history, message timestamps, and app activity across the precise window nobody can currently account for. A phone does not sit for a podcast. It has no best friend to protect and no story to keep straight across 3 interviews. It has timestamps, and whatever they read off it will land in the same room as a document nobody outside the state has seen. July 30th. Officials confirm the Mississippi State Medical Examiner has completed the official autopsy of Nolan Wells. It has not been released. Not to the press. Not to the public. Not to his parents. McElrath laid out her reasoning in a video statement on July 23rd. The report goes to a grand jury. Every death in Jackson County except natural causes and non-criminal wrecks is presented to a grand jury, and her office has worked this way throughout her career. Holding it back protects the integrity of an active investigation. A grand jury is not a trial. It is a panel of citizens who review evidence and decide whether charges are warranted. Convening one accuses nobody. No date announced, no hearing scheduled, no public timeline. While that report sits, the reward has climbed to $175,000. Al Sharpton pledged $50,000 delivering the eulogy at Centerpoint Church in Ocean Springs on July 20th, where hundreds came in sky blue at Christine Wansley's request, the color Nolan's high school team wore. Tyler Perry matched it and paid for the funeral. Terrell Owens added $25,000 and sat in the church. Spike Lee was there. Colin Kaepernick's organization funded the independent autopsy, and Dr. Benjamin Hudson, Warren's father, has offered to match Sharpton's $50,000. The father of a young man the internet has spent a month convicting is now putting up money for information leading to an arrest. Nobody has been arrested. Nobody has been charged. No agency has stated that a crime occurred. Several of the people being named online are 18 years old, living under threats over accusations no investigator has ever made. What is not in dispute is smaller than any theory anyone has built. An 18-year-old went to an island on the 4th of July with people he had known since middle school. At 4 in the afternoon, a call went out from a sinking boat, and a teenager told a dispatcher everyone aboard was fine, and then said he didn't really know. 2 days later, a park ranger found Nolan Wells in the water off the northwestern tip. His mother has asked one question since the first week of July, and it has never been a question about blame. She wants to know how her son died. That answer is typed, signed, and sealed in a building in Mississippi. The room where it will finally be read has not yet been called to order.